Blah. Y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov with it do. The outlet to reality. The holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama, or maybe hide from your baby mama. Just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And today we have a very special guest who I consider a friend, a brother. I like to call him famous. Give it up for Rabbi Alcabes. How's it going? Woo!
Oh, it's going great. So excited to be here.
Oh man, it's an honor, Rabbi. You don't understand. I'm already sweating. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Oh man, but I do want to share a little bit, a little backstory how we met. So,
This is going to be good. This is a good story.
oh yeah,
This is
you
going to
already
be good.
know. So the crazy thing is, I met you at the call out a few times, and
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember one time you were outside, and I said, Rabbi, I think I know you. Your son just had a bar mitzvah last week, right? And you're like, no. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And you're like, but my son's about to have a bar mitzvah this year. I was like, oh, Rabbi, so I'm kind of close, right? You know what I'm saying? And it was so nice because many of the rabbis that I've interviewed on the podcast, like Rabbi Fromowitz, and I was like, Rabbi, I'd be honored to have you. You don't understand. Like every time I see you, you're always in the positive mood. I don't know, maybe it's because you had your Cheerios or something, but you're always
Oh,
in a good, you know what I'm saying? But that was my first impression. I gotta say, very positive, humble, great person. And what about you, Rabbi? What was your impression when you first met me?
well, which time?
It could be
Because
anytime.
yeah, anytime. Well, I'll tell you. So I always noticed you were always very friendly, very happy to say hello to me, and I was always wondering if, in retrospect, that's because you thought I was the other rabbi, but but no, even after that, you kept it up. So yeah, every time I see you, you're full of energy. You're exciting. You light up the room, and it's great to see you around. And we learn in the same at the Kollel. We learn there on the same nights, so we see each other a lot, and we mostly bump into each other getting the food for the learning, right? So I guess that's why we're both in good moods.
Right.
But it's always good to see you over there. The
Oh,
chillin' to the whatever it is we're having. It's always good to see you.
oh, thank you, Rabbi. Very kind. Now, Rabbi, tonight's about you, and I want you to, let the audience know a little bit about you. If you could share about like your background, if you were born and raised in Vegas, and what school you went to, and what kind of things you like to do, like in your free time.
One thing is for sure, I definitely was not born in Vegas. I was born in Queens, New York, and I grew up in Queens, New York. Went to school there. I went to elementary school there. Went to high school in Queens in Mesivta Forest Hills, part of Chafetz Chaim. That was I was there for high school. After high school, I went to yeshiva in Miami, and I was in yeshiva in Miami for 4 years, or a little more than 4 years, and that was great. That was a great experience. Learned a lot over there. It was very exceptional rabbis over there. It taught me a lot. And after that, I went to the big yeshiva Chafetz Chaim in Queens, where I spent about a decade learning Torah over there with a lot of good friends. Some of them you know. Rabbi Fromowitz was there. Some of the others were there, and it was great experience learning Torah there. Got married, stayed learning after I was married, and I always wanted to teach Torah. I didn't know in what capacity, and I didn't know kids, adults, and I figured, I gotta let uh, Hashem just show me the right direction. So this is sort of what happened. It was like one piece after another. I kind of thought I was gonna go in more of the adult education route. I was walking on the street and I met somebody I knew, and he said, uh, "There's an opening at one of the elementary schools for a seventh grade job. This is July, so it's close to the beginning of the next school year. So he said somebody just left, and they're looking for a replacement. So give a call to the principal." So I figured I don't have anything to lose right then. I was looking for a job, so this job came my way. I gave a call to the principal, and I was like half-hearted about it. But once I gave a lesson, a practice lesson over there, then I saw I liked it, and I got the job, and that kind of put me in the direction of teaching middle school kids, and then that's what I do here in Las Vegas. So it's pretty good to have that direction of Hashem. That's how I ended up doing what I'm doing.
Wow. That's amazing, Rabbi. And Rabbi, what really puts you wanting to? Because I hear you. You know, you're teaching at a middle school. You left New York to come to Vegas. There had to be a lot of things in your mind. And what made you wanting to be a rabbi? What was? How did you know this was your purpose in life?
So I was trying to think about that a little bit. I'm still not sure how I how I knew that. I once heard that you don't really you don't really pick what you're going to do. It's Hashem kind of puts it in your head, and you go in that direction, and then the people you meet along the way send you in that direction, and you kind of just know internally what you're supposed to be doing, and that's how and Hashem does that because we need all kinds of people in the world. What if there was no one interested in becoming a doctor, right? So then how are people going to get healed? And we're not going to be doctors. So Hashem puts it in the head of different people to become doctors. I guess Hashem puts it in the head of people to become rabbis, and we need good podcasts. So I guess Hashem put it in your mind that we got to have good podcasters out there too. Keeping we need an outlet to reality. So Hashem put that in your mind. So I think that's the real story of how that happened. Like what happened to me along the way. I guess I went to learn in yeshiva, and I liked it, and I liked learning Torah, and I figured if I like learning Torah, I'll like teaching Torah. I want to do a job of something I like, so that's how I went in this direction. That's, I think, really what pushed me in this direction. It's not like it's not. I can't say I did it for the people. I guess I really did it kind of for myself because it's just what I like to do. But hopefully, we help some people along the way.
Wow. No, it's deep because if you think about it, rabbis, they save the soul. And times we as a people, we can get lost in our own reality, in our own distraction, and we need that guidance sometimes to get us back in our feet, you know and that's what I love about about having a rabbi is going to them and feeling comfortable and knowing that you won't be judged because they understand it's a process of growth.
Yeah, right. Well, everything's a process of growth, and I think we're all just friends working together. We're all friends, and we all help each other grow, and we all give what we have. So it's rabbis, everybody, we all help each other. That's the way I see our community.
I love it. And even like last week when I saw you, right, talking about helping each other, Rabbi Goldman gave a shir at the kollel about the thing about holding a grudge, right? And like being careful because it's so easy to not if one person does something wrong to do you wrong, like that's it. I don't want to talk to them no more. I'm done. Right? It's a very natural reaction, right? And
Yeah.
we're talking about how sometimes we have there's a term in Hebrew which is nagia, right? It's bias, being biased on anything, right? And I gave an example of my barber, who's Muslim, and I was talking to him. I had a you know conflict with a family member, and same thing, he did me wrong in one thing, and he said that you know you have to look at the good and the bad. If the good overweighs the bad, then you shouldn't walk away from their life. We're not perfect. And I just thought it was an amazing concept, Rabbi. If you want to share, give your 2 cents about what, the whole situation.
Oh yeah. So I think that's just always very hard. Grudges is like a hard thing to deal with. And there's different levels, of course, what happens. One person could be holding a grudge because of something small, but another person could be holding a grudge against someone and he was really wronged, right? So everybody's got to work on this in a different level. So I guess what you're saying makes a lot of sense, to take the things into totality. Now, what about if you take things into totality and now you say, I still want to have that grudge, right? What do you do then?
That's
So that's a pretty tough one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure, because that's very hard for us to judge someone who is wronged so bad, and expect them not to have a grudge. But for us ourselves, what I think is it's sort of like weightlifting. It takes practice, and you got to be working on yourself before somebody wrongs you. That's really what I think. Or if somebody wrongs you, work on yourself in other areas, and maybe then come back to that grudge later on. Right. So I'll just give like an example. Um, so I think I was telling you the other night over there at the Kollel, there's a Hebrew word called sovel, right? Sovel, it's hard to find a good English translation, but it's sort of like a mix of tolerating and carrying. Meaning, let's say you have someone who did something wrong, but you know that you need to get along with this person, right? Like, let's just give an extreme example. There are two guys on a lifeboat, right? You and someone else on a lifeboat. And the guy you're with, he does something that sets you off, gets you upset. He, you know, he takes some of the extra food or whatever it is. You know that you have to get along with him in order to survive, right?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do if you hold that grudge? You're not going to get anywhere. You have to work together to row that boat to shore. So a person will find a way to deal with that grudge. So what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? I think everybody knows the answer. I think everybody knows that when you feel like you got to get along with somebody, you're going to find a way to get along with them, right? But you're not going to deny reality what the guy did to you. You know what he did to you. And you can't deny it. He just did it a few minutes ago. You know that you have to get along, so you're going to be so well what he did. You're going to carry it. You're going to, like sort of what you were saying, we got to take the whole person in the totality and the totality of the scenario. We're in a situation, we got to work together. So I'm going to say I'm taking on the whole package. I have this guy here. Something he did annoyed me, but we need to work together right now. So it's the full picture, right? So I think like one of the steps is to know what it means to be sovel, to carry that burden. And I'm just using this as an example where I think everybody could relate to when you have two people that need to get along and they're in a situation that they need to get along with each other. You're going to find a way to tolerate that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that's very deep, Rabbi. I agree with you 100%. It's almost like an example that came up in my head. Like for I work in retail, so I have to get along with everybody, all my coworkers in order for the so that way the customers are
Right.
happy. If I hold that grudge against my other coworker, nothing's gonna get done. Because then I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna move. I'm gonna wait until he does his. You know, it's there's gonna be just conflict, and no one's gonna be happy. It's gonna be unorganized. So I agree with you. I think you have to control your pride and not take it personal. I think that if they are trying to get you upset, it's not you the problem, it's them. Maybe something's going on, right?
Yeah. Right. And what forces you to do that is realizing that you need to work together, right?
Yeah.
That this is a situation where if you don't work together, you yourself are going to lose out. So you'll find a way to tolerate it. So this like brings to mind the former chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Lau, or there's a Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau. He once spoke at a conference, and he said everybody knows the vision of Mashiach, where the symbol is a lion and a lamb sitting together, drinking from the same water, right? Everyone has that vision and understands, oh, when Mashiach comes, the lion and the lamb are going to be able to sit together. The lion's not going to eat the lamb. And that's the symbol for Mashiach. I think a lot of people know about that picture. So Rabbi Lau says, what's that? What's the big deal with that? We already experienced this. This is experienced in the Chumash, in Parashas Noach. All the animals had to go into the same teva, into the big boat that Noach had, and you had a lion and you had a lamb, and they got along, right?
Yeah.
So why is this the symbol of Mashiach? So he says that an important difference, and then there's a lesson we get from here. He says that when the animals were in that boat, they knew that they had to get along with each other, right? The lion knew that there was no more lambs left, and if he were to eat that lamb, then there wouldn't be food for him or his descendants down the line, right?
Yeah.
And the lamb knew, right? Everybody knew they had to get along with each other. So when you're in the same boat, literally, you know you got to get along with people. You're going to find a way to make it happen. The big idea of Mashiach is, says Rabbi Lau, even when everything is great and we'll have everything we need, we'll still be able to get along. That's why it's a big deal for a lion and lamb to be sitting together, even though they're not in a boat and there's no storm going outside. But I guess the lesson we could take for ourselves for now is the more we realize that we need someone else, the easier time we'll be able to get along with them. Right? Now we can then apply this to a good way to get along with somebody is to think about how much we need them and how much we have to gain with working together and how much we'd lose out if we were to say, you know what, I can't handle this guy anymore. So that's, I think, one way that we can learn to accept this idea of fighting a grudge or working on a grudge.
Wow. No, it's a very powerful, Rabbi. That you just shocked me. It's amazing what Rabbi Lau said because I've that's so cool. The concept. even like now, I think that if we try to live like the Mashiach is here already, like prepare ourselves, I think that's important, that way, we're ready, even though there's still room for us to grow, but I love that concept, like the lamb and the lion eating together. You see in movies, Rabbi, I'm going to be honest, this got me thinking, but in movies, they always say that there's a quote that um my enemy is a friend in me, and it's crazy. You hear that a lot, right, Rabbi? You hear that?
Sounds
And
good.
right, and in the movies they show where that might be your enemy, but in order to pass this place or this horrible, let's say, hallway, whatever, I need my enemy to help me out. And it's crazy at the end, most movies they show that they end up becoming friends.
Yeah, right. I guess that's what people want to see,
Right?
right? Yeah, that's what people want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's deep. It's
yeah.
deep.
So it's important to realize that. And once you can see it in a situation where you need the other person, I think you can get an idea of what it means to take on a full picture and carry visovel, something that the person did that you don't like. Once you see that, I think then you can apply it to even people that you don't necessarily feel like you need to be co-workers or working with them. Um, once this is really also just to get you like a picture. This is what it means. Like I know that I can do this. I can be sovel. I can tolerate and carry when I know I need to work with this person. Otherwise, everything's going to end up in a disaster. I can now apply this to situations where I don't necessarily need to work with the person, right? Let's say I'm in a situation where this guy, I feel he wronged me, but if I part ways with him, I don't really have much to lose. I still can look at this idea that I know exists in my life in other areas and say, maybe I could be Sovel over here, right? So I want to give one practical exercise that I read in the Sefer Ali Shur, the book written by Rav Wolbe. And he says, if you want to work on this, you take 1/2 hour a day and you set your phone. You take your phone and you set an alarm and pick a half hour. You say, with that half hour, I'm going to tolerate what happens to me, right? I'm going to be sovel, whether it's something sitting in traffic, right? We don't have so much of that here, but every once in a while it happens.
Right.
Whether it's right, whether it's the people I'm dealing with, you pick a half hour. You say, like, let's say every day from 4 to 4:30, I'm going to be sovel. I'm going to tolerate. Again, I'm going to just carry and take this and try to put it into the full picture for 1/2 hour a day. And after that half hour, then you just go back to being your regular self. You try it, but try it as best you can. But for 1/2 hour, you put that focus. So what this does is it builds your muscle. It's really like weightlifting because that's what you're doing. You're carrying something that happened to you. You're holding it up. So it's hard to do that right away. So you need to start slowly. So you start with a half hour a day. Half hour, I'm going to just be sovel, right? After that half hour, I'm going to be my regular self. And he says you do this for a while. And when you see that half hour is getting easier, then you add another half hour at a different point in the day, not connected, right? Because you don't want to, I'm not saying take the half hour and make it a full hour. Let's say you're doing a good job with the 4 to 4:30 slot. So now maybe go to 11 a.m. and do 11 to 11:30 a.m., right? And now you're lifting those weights a little more, those toleration, if that's a word, tolerating weights or lifting, holding up the full picture here, and you're doing it a little more, every couple weeks, and a little bit more. So you're like strengthening that muscle of lifting, right? So that's, I think, a practical way, he says, to work on this. You have that half hour, and you don't want it to be too much, because if you try to just change like that, it's not going to work. And after a couple days, you're going to say, "This is too much for me," and you're going to snap, right? Because
Right.
it's too much. A person who's not ready, you're not ready to take on everything, right? So, and then I would also say, just he probably means to take a part of the day, not that it's too hard. Don't take the craziest part of the day and say, all right, I'm going to tolerate the hardest part of the day. If you're running a store, if you're in sales, don't do this at the craziest part of your day, whichever that part of the day that is, right? If you're running a pizza shop, don't do this at the exact time that the store is going to get crowded. You do it at a time that makes sense. But I think also, don't do it while you're sleeping, right? Don't say, you know what, I'm going to tolerate everything from 3 a.m. to 3:30, right? And you say, oh, this is great, right? I'm already doing a good job. So it's got to be somewhere where you think you're going to be able to do it. It's very much like, I'm sure you're picturing this in your mind right now, weightlifting, right?
Yeah.
You can't just pick up the bar with nothing on it, right? But you put something on the bar that you think you could lift. And after you do that for a while, you add it a little more, right? You slowly add a little more. So that's, I think, a very practical way to work on this. Then when it comes to meeting someone later on in life, and if a person does something wrong to you, you already have those muscles in place, right?
Yeah. 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 Wow.
Yeah, so hopefully, I don't know. That's an idea that I read in the book, and it's a good practical idea, a good practice.
I love it. I love it. And Rabbi, can you apply that same concept and technique when you're married? Because I know there's ups and downs in marriage, 100%. Is there a way like you can use that same like tolerant? Because there's gonna be like you know it, Rabbi. I mean, I've never been married, but coming soon, guys, near you. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But is there is have you done that technique while being married? Like you're like, okay, it's time for me to listen to my wife. Maybe she's going through something. I'm not gonna give my input. I'm just gonna listen. Like, do you switch?
Yeah, I definitely have. Definitely have. I don't want to go into too much details on the podcast, but definitely there are times in the day, whether it's getting my kids out the door in the morning, or different points of the day where it's good to kind of view the whole picture and say, you know what, before you get into the tough situation, say, I'm just going to do this for a few minutes. I'm just going to I'm going to get through this, and I'll be able to do it. There's a idea that when something has an end, people are able to tolerate it, right?
Yeah,
When you know that there's an end. So I think that's part of the trick over here. One of the Gemaras that I was just doing today, it was talking about um, a person who would be severely beaten. And there's a famous story with three people who were thrown into the fiery furnace, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they were refusing to bow to an idol, and the emperor Nebuchadnezzar threatened to throw them into this furnace, and that would have been the end of them. They were thrown in the furnace, and a miracle happened. They survived, right? So that's a really amazing thing. They were willing to risk their life. The Gemara said, had they have been threatened with a beating, with being beaten up, they would have capitulated to Nebuchadnezzar and bowed to the idol, right?
Yeah.
And the Gemara says the reason why is because there would have been no end in sight to the end of their being beaten, right? So death, they're willing to risk their life and give up their life to not break Hashem's Torah and not bow to this idol. But if it's talking about a beating with no end in sight, that would have been too hard for them. So isn't that interesting that when there's an end in sight, we can all do it? If there's no end in sight, it seems like scary and overwhelming.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I've heard the story, Rabbi, but I've never saw it that way. How if there's an end, you don't feel that worry, you know? But
Yeah,
if the ending is like forever, you're like, I'm scared because you don't know if it's gonna be
yeah,
over. So
right, right.
it's amazing, Rabbi. It's very, very deep stuff. I love it. And Rabbi, I'm gonna wrap it up because it looks like Zoom about to kick me out. But guys, thank you, Rabbi, for being here. This is the outlet to reality.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anytime. The outlet to reality, the holders podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. You know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the outlet to reality, and my Snapchat is take one pass it, and my TikTok is at Yaakov28. And Rabbi, where can my fans find you if they have any questions about Gemara? Is there any way they can reach out?
I got my email. That's ya@ydlv.org.